Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Friday. We are here to talk some transfer rumours, some really interesting transfer rumours, all surrounding a player that we've been linked with now for quite some time. And as the papers and as the journalists are saying, his potential deal to come to Everton may be getting closer and closer. Of course, we are talking about Brazilian defender Gabriel, currently playing for Lille in the French league. There's been rumours about this player joining Everton for months and months now, ever since the summer, and like I said, in the last sort of 24 hours or so, those rumours really have heated up a little bit. So we'll talk about that in the stream today. We're also going to talk about Oumar Niasse, who was stopped by police yesterday for driving around in the Manchester area with three of his friends in the car, obviously after the announcement on Monday night that the whole country was to go into lockdown and that you should only travel if absolutely necessary. Oumar Niasse, a footballer who barely plays football, on £70,000-80,000 a week, decided that driving around Manchester with his three friends in his car was necessary, which is absolutely stupid from him. So we'll talk about that one a little bit later on in the stream as well. But how's everyone doing? I just want to say, before we go into the stream, before we get into any of the transfer rumours, I just want to say a massive thank you for all of the support on Wednesday's video. As I'm sure you know, or if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it, Wednesday we uploaded an office tour. I called it the Ultimate Everton Office Tour. Basically, it was a little tour around my dad's office upstairs in the loft. He works from home an awful lot, so he decided to totally reinvent his office. He's got a load of Everton memorabilia up there, so we basically just done a walk-through tour. I initially thought it'd only take me 15-20 minutes, but you know, half an hour later I'm still sort of filming the little bits and bobs. You don't quite realise just how much is in there until you're actually looking at every single piece. So a big thank you for all of the support on that video. I really do appreciate it. All the comments were absolutely boss. Me and my dad have been looking and replying to the comments over the last couple of days, and he's been absolutely made up reading them as well. So big thanks for that. Also big thanks for all the support on Monday's live stream. I was joined by Mike, of course, last Monday. We spoke about the future of Everton Football Club. We spoke about Carlo Ancelotti and who needs to come in the summer, if there is a summer transfer window, and what we need to do to improve as well. So big thanks for all of the support on that. But anyway, I suppose we'll dive into today's topics. We'll jump into today's live stream. Like I said, the biggest sort of piece of news over the last 48 hours. Obviously, Everton still very much, over social media, getting involved with the stay home campaign, would you call it, or basically just everybody staying at home unless you absolutely have to leave. Obviously, it's massively important that we contain this virus now and that we do stay at home and that we don't do any unnecessary travel. Everton again. Videos of Michael Keane, calling up fans, Carlo Ancelotti calling up fans, Carlo Ancelotti putting a message out as well. So really nice and really important to see that as well. Mason Holgate actually having an interview, I think it was yesterday or earlier today, and he was speaking in it and he said that he's just worried he's getting on his mum's nerves staying at home. So obviously Everton still getting involved with all of that, but the biggest transfer bit of information over the last 48 hours has come from, again, various different sources. When I talk about transfers, I always make sure that I give my opinion on whether I believe the transfer is possible or not, or whether I believe there's a lot of it, in the transfer. Obviously over the last sort of 2 or 3 months since Carlo Ancelotti's come in and joined us, there's been a lot of transfer rumours. There's been a lot of players linked with Everton Football Club. We've had near enough every Italian player linked with us. Obviously a couple of weeks ago we had Donnarumma, the AC Milan goalkeeper, and again we get linked to a lot of players which are, for me, I think very much just news outlets and journalists picking names out of a hat and saying, right, let's link them with Everton for a deal worth, I don't know, let's just again pick a number out of a hat. However, this one has, for me, got a lot of substance to it, and I think is a lot more realistic to happen than a lot of the ones we've seen. Plus, we're seeing various different journalists and we're seeing various different news outlets bringing it to the surface, and it is the deal linking Everton with Brazilian defender Gabriel Magalhães. Now, I've probably absolutely butchered that name, so I do apologise if you're sitting at home, if you know it's pronounced and you're shouting at your screen. I do apologise, but I'm just going to call him Gabriel for now. According to Nico Shearer, who is a journalist, or I suppose he is a journalist on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of you will be familiar with him. I'm sure a lot of you will know him if you're on Twitter, and throughout the summer and stuff, he was the guy that was sort of putting transfer rumours out there every day, not just for Everton but for other clubs as well, and he seemed quite reliable as well. He was putting little bits of information out there that were seemingly to be true, and that couple of days later were coming out in an official capacity. So I'd say he's quite reliable. He's not a verified journalist. He's not somebody that I knew before this summer, but I'd say a lot of his information, certainly from this summer, January as well, has been quite reliable. So he has said that an agreement has been made between Everton and defender Gabriel Magalhaes for a contract until 2025. Now Everton will look to finalise the deal, and that's really, really interesting that he's come out and said that, because within the same day The Independent come out and put an article again. I don't tend to really look too much into what the newspapers and stuff are saying on transfers, but if you had to pick one newspaper that I'd say I trust probably the most with transfers, it probably would be The Independent. They said that there was a contract presented to the player and to Leo before the outbreak of the virus, and that Everton are looking to move early. And this, again, like I said, is really, really interesting, and I feel it's got a lot of meat to it, if you like, because a couple of weeks ago, a couple of weeks before the Premier League was suspended, there was rumours that Carlo Ancelotti was looking for another centre-half. There was rumours that Carlo Ancelotti could potentially be looking to move Michael Keane on or Yerry Mina on and bring another centre-half in to partner Mason Holgate in the long run. Now, I've got my own little theory on the centre-back situation, which we'll go into talking about in just a second, but it does look like, according to Nico Shearer, according to The Independent, and according to a lot of sources over the last 2, 3, 4 months, it looks like Gabriel is the player that Everton are targeting. He looks a fit for Marcel Brands. We know Marcel Brands, commonly goes for sort of South American style centre-halves. We've seen that with Yerry Mina, obviously Colombian coming over from Barcelona. And for me, I think he's a decent defender. Like I said, I haven't seen an awful lot from him, but he seems to be a player that Carlo Ancelotti's kept his eye on, and a player that Carlo Ancelotti wants to move early in the transfer window for. Obviously, the transfer window's not even open yet. We know that this sort of void, if you like, this space where there's no football and matches, this space where there's a lot of time on journalists' hands and a lot of time on agents' hands, we know that there's going to be a lot of transfer rumours that come out that are just absolute bullshit to feed, betting companies, and to feed agents' pockets and all of that sort of stuff, and to make people click on different articles. But I honestly do believe this one has got some substance to it, and it is really, really interesting. Obviously, after that article a couple of months ago that said that Carlo Ancelotti may be looking to move on either Michael Keane and Yerry Mina, and bring in another centre-half. Personally, for me, I've got my own little theory surrounding this, and it's probably not what Carlo Ancelotti's thinking, but I think this potentially could work. If we're going for a centre-half in the summer, which, don't get me wrong, I think we wouldn't, it wouldn't be amiss if we brought in another centre-half. It wouldn't be a negative thing. However, I do believe there's positions that we should be looking to fill more urgently than centre-back. Obviously, at the moment, we've got Mason Holgate, who's been absolutely fantastic since Carlo Ancelotti's come in. Absolute credit to the football club, not only on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. He is, for me, our best centre-half at the moment. And you've got Yerry Mina and Michael Keane, who both sort of fit into that category of 1 week can put in a fantastic performance and look like a centre-half that, you'd absolutely trust 100% of the time, and the next week put in, a shocking performance where they make 5 rickets and you sort of think, oh my God, this player can't take us forward. So again, there's that inconsistency I felt with those two there. But like I said, we've got 3 players there that have played an awful lot of Premier League football this season and have had their fair share of good performance as well. And what I'm trying to say, I suppose, is that, like I said, I wouldn't be against bringing in another centre-half, and I think if we could bring in a centre-half that is a little bit more consistent and can play next to Mason Holgate, and have a little bit more of a solid connection there, rather than your Yerry Mina or your Michael Keane, who may have a fantastic game but may also have a not so fantastic game. Yerry Mina, for me, I think has been a little bit more consistent than Michael Keane has this season. I think he'd be better than Michael Keane has. I just feel like there's other positions on the pitch that we need to address more urgently. Right back, I think, is a position that we need to address more urgently. I honestly can't see Seamus Coleman being able to play another 38 games next season, and I just don't think Gabriel is good enough a good enough defender to come in as a right back if he does come in on a permanent, which obviously we don't know whether he will or not. John Joe Kenny, obviously there's a situation regarding him, but we don't know whether he's going to be able to come back and fit straight in, or whether he's going to be good enough to do that. Obviously there's midfield, which massively needs addressing. We talk about the fact that we wouldn't go and miss bringing another centre back, but we desperately need a creative midfielder. We still don't have a creative midfielder. We've got 4 or 5 central midfielders. We've got Andre Gomez, we've got Tom Davies, we've got Morgan Schneiderlin, we've got Gylfi Sigurdsson, we've got Fabian Delph. It was sort of the core midfield, and they're all very, very, very similar. Now, I love Andre Gomes. I think he's a fantastic footballer. I think on the ball he's brilliant, and I think when he's fit, he's definitely a starter, and he's a real asset to the team. He's very calm, he's very collected. Like I said, he's good on the ball, but he's not very creative going forward, and he's not going to score you a lot of goals. He's not going to assist you a lot. Morgan Schneiderlin, we know, again, can do a job defensively, can sweep up a little bit, can sit in front of the defence, but he doesn't create anything going forward. He doesn't score enough. Gylfi Sigurdsson, again, was our creative hub prior to this season, was the player that we looked at to be in that number 10 role, was the creative style of midfielder, but we've since seen this season that his form, obviously there's a lot of things to address there. He simply hasn't been creating enough. He's been disappearing in too many games. He hasn't been doing enough. And then you've got Fabian Delph, Tom Davies, who both aren't very creative in midfield. So for me, I think, whilst, like I said, you know, we may bring in another centre-half in the summer, and Carlo Ancelotti might look at it and go, right, okay, you know, maybe we do want to move on a Michael Keane or a Yerry Mina and bring another centre-half in, or maybe we simply just want to bring another centre-half in that can play next to Mason Holgate, and then Yerry Mina and Michael Keane can be your backup centre-back partnerships for cup games or European games in the future, whatever. I just think there's positions that I'd target, you know, more urgently than the centre-back position. I think we've got at least three decent, or at least, you know, at least two decent solid centre-backs, and Michael Keane, who on his day can be decent and solid, but okay, is a little bit inconsistent. And obviously if we bring Gabriel in, that's another one, but I just think we're massively lacking an attacking midfielder or a creative midfielder, whatever you want to call it, whether it be an 8, whether it be a number 10, whether it be somebody that, you know, like a Jack Grealish, for example, or a James Maddison, or a Todd Cantwell. I use them as players that I'm not saying would realistically come to Everton, either of those three. I think Cantwell would, and I think probably Jack Grealish would as well, maybe not James Maddison, but those type of players that play in, you know, the more of an advanced role, but you're always screaming out for a player like Arteta who could just sit in a midfield and be that creative hub, be that player that picks the ball up and passes it outwards and can score from 20 yards, can hit a ball. We need that creativity in our midfield because we've simply got too many midfielders that do the same job, and we've only got, I'd say, 2 of them maybe at a push who were good enough to do that job in the Premier League week in, week out, and then we've got 3 for me who just simply shouldn't be starting football and matches for Everton Football Club. So that's a key position, I think. Like I said, right back, we then, you know, pushing forward, you're probably saying, you know, maybe the right midfield, right wing's a key position, depending on how Carlo Ancelotti wants to use Moise Keane next season, if he wants to play Moise Keane up front and maybe push Richarlison out. But for me, honestly, I'd be playing Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin as the side partnership next year, unless it becomes, you know, unless a natural born goal scorer becomes available straight away and we can maybe, you know, bring one of them. And I'm talking the level of like a Lukaku. But then you're thinking, okay, the right hand side, is it good enough? Is Theo Walcott realistically going to be good enough next season? Is Bernard consistent enough? Alex Iwobi, we know, isn't consistent enough. So what I'm trying to say is, for me, you know, I do believe this transfer rumour, and I do think Carlo Ancelotti's looking for another centre-half. I would prefer for us to be targeting other positions, and, you know, if we bring in Gabriel, and he's our first signing, and we we bosh that one off, and then Carlo Ancelotti comes out and Marcel Brands come out and they say, right, he's a very good player, and he was a player that we could get at the time, you know, and we didn't want to miss out on the deal, really. Bring him in, and then we move on to maybe an attack of midfielder or a creative midfielder, whatever you want to call it, and a right back. Then I'm absolutely fine with that. But like I said, I do quite believe this. I would want this transfer to take place in more of a capacity as with the view to maybe moving Mason Holgate into midfield. Now, this is a difficult situation, I think, because Mason's been absolutely fantastic wherever he's played since, you know, Duncan Ferguson's come in, really, when he's had to play in the midfield. He's been absolutely excellent. He's been head and shoulders better than sort of any of the midfielders we've seen, certainly, you know, before Andre Gomes returned from injury. When he's played in defence, obviously, next to Yerry Mina, he's been fantastic. When he's played next to Michael Keane, he's been fantastic. Everywhere he's been asked to play, sort of since he's been given that responsibility and since he's been brought in by Duncan Ferguson and Ancelotti, he's done it fantastically. So it's a difficult situation to say, right, maybe we should move Mason into the centre of midfield, because obviously then you're missing his defensive qualities, you're missing his commandments at the back, and then at the moment, if we were to, let's just base the argument off the current squad, you'd then be putting Michael Keane and Yerry Mina as a centre-back partnership, and I just don't think there's enough consistency, I don't think there's enough leadership, and I don't think there's enough footballing brain, if you like, in that centre-back partnership for us to really be confident with it. So it is a difficult situation, but if we were to bring somebody like a Gabriel in, maybe there's that potential to pushing Mason Holgate up as a centre midfielder. That would definitely give us that presence in midfield. It would give us that young player that's not afraid to use his body, not afraid to get himself about, not afraid to, you know, throw a tackle in, to sit in front of the defence, not afraid to do the sort of Idrissa Gana Gueye job, if you like. That would be massively missing this season, and I still think one of the main reasons as to why we haven't massively battled for Europe, or we haven't massively taken the opportunity to, you know, be in and around the sides like Leicester. For example, the reason we haven't been able to do what Leicester have done, one of the big reasons for me, is because we never directly replaced the Idrissa again. You could say we brought in Jean-Philippe Gbamin, and that's fine, but ultimately we haven't seen Jean-Philippe Gbamin anywhere near enough this season. And okay, that's something that we couldn't help. Okay, that's, you know, something that, you know, we couldn't change because he's been injured, and that's not his fault. That's not anybody's fault. But I just feel like if we'd have kept hold of Idrissa again, let's say, in an alternate world for this season, I really do think we'd be a team that we're comfortably in a European place and definitely pushing for the top four at the very least. So, you know, until we see Jean-Philippe Gbamin, until Jean-Philippe Gbamin comes back into the squad, which, totally off topic by the way, and something that means absolutely nothing to anybody, but Jean-Philippe Gbamin on FIFA 20 is absolutely unbelievable. So if you've got a FIFA 20 career mode and you've started with Everton and you've just thought, right, we'll just put Gbamin on the bench because he's not played this season, get him in the squad. He's absolutely quality, honestly. But anyway, that's off topic. You know, Jean-Philippe Gbamin might come back before the end of the season if the season is to finish after obviously everything that's going on, or he might come in at the start of next season and we might go, boss, absolutely belter, does the Idrissa Gana Gueye job, is that presence in midfield, is that player that uses his strength, uses his you know, his heading ability, can bring the ball, can act as that sort of player that sits in front of the defence. Boss, we've got that now. All we have to do is go and get a creative midfielder, and then maybe someone that sits in between Gbamin and the creative midfielder, and you know, just to fill a space really, and then you're sound. But we don't know that Jean-Philippe Gbamin's going to be able to do that. We don't know whether he's going to be able to step in and have the impact that we need him to have realistically, not only because we don't know whether he's good enough to do that, but also he's coming off the back of a really tough injury, so we don't know whether he's going to have the, you know, the tools to do that. So for me, I like to see this, you know, the Gabriel rumours as potentially a way for Mason Holgate to maybe step up into midfield, or for somebody to partner Mason Holgate and maybe cut ties with somebody like a Michael Keane, who, let's be honest, since he's joined the football club hasn't been good enough. But either way, it's a strong rumour, like I said, coming from a guy who I think was very trustworthy and give out a lot of important information during the January transfer window in Nico Shearer. He is saying that there's an agreement that has been made between Everton and the defender for a contract until 2025. Now Everton will look to finalise the deal. Important bit of information that's missing from that statement is that he doesn't mention that a bid has been made or a deal has been agreed with Lille. He just says that there's an agreement in place with the player himself. So obviously we don't know whether that's gone behind Leo's back. I would hope not, because we'll get in trouble with that. And I would hope that the mere fact that this bit of information is coming out means that, you know, there's already been a bid sort of either formally or informally accepted from Lille. Otherwise we wouldn't be talking to the player in that capacity. Again, the Independent's also saying a contract was presented before the outbreak and Everton are looking to move early. Just on that, briefly, 442, another news outlet in the UK for transfers, and that they released a little bit of information yesterday, I think it was, saying that there's around about 4 or 5 clubs that are interested in Gabriel, and there's, you know, he didn't mention Everton being one of them, but he said that there's 4 or 5 clubs that are interested in him. So I think the most realistic thing we're looking at here, situation wise, is that the players come to an agreement with Lille. I'm not too sure if his contract's up, to be honest with you. That's probably something I should have looked into, so I'm sorry about that. But I think the most realistic situation we're looking at is that the players come to an agreement with his club that he's going to leave at the end of the summer, and that he's free to leave at the end of the season, and that he's free to talk to teams, and Everton have been one of the teams that have looked to move quickly in this situation. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts on that one in the comment section down below. Of course, if you're enjoying the team so far, please do hit that like button. Let's get this team shared. Let's get it all over the social medias, etc. Get as many people in here as possible. Like I said, a big thanks for all the support on Wednesday's video and Monday's live stream as well. Let's see how many people we can get in here. Ollie says, "Hey up, Cam, you good?" I'm not too bad, mate. I'm not too bad. I'm staying safe. I'm staying in my own house. I'm self-isolating, and I work for a company that in health and social care, so sometimes I do have to leave the house for various reasons, so I'm trying to do it as little as possible. I hope you're good, mate. Ethan says apparently he said he's happy at Lille. again, I know that this is why it's a transfer rumour, isn't it, at the minute? This is why it's bits of information that are coming from journalists and newspapers and not anything, 100% solid. I've read that as well. David says, alright, Cam and Jess, alright, David, hope you're doing well. Hernandez says, do you keep the 4 centre-backs, or do you look to get rid of some of them? What does this mean for the youth centre-backs? It's a very, very good question. Listen, if we bring, let's say we bring Gabriel in the summer, or whatever the next transfer window may be, and it means, Carlo Ancelotti comes out and says, right, I've got no plans to put Mason Holgate in midfield, I've brought Gabriel in simply to partner Mason Holgate. Fine, fair enough. I would then be looking to move on. Michael Keane, probably not Yerry Mina, to be honest with you. Like I said, I think Yerry Mina's had a better season than Michael Keane has, and I think for me overall, Yerry Mina's a better centre half than Michael Keane. So I potentially would be looking to move on to Michael Keane. I think if we could get 15 million, maybe even pushing 20 million for him, that will obviously massively help financial fair play as well, the way that works. And at the end of the day, we can't realistically. We've identified that there's a lot of deadwood players in this squad, and I'm not necessarily saying Michael Keane's one of them, but we've identified there's a lot of players in this squad that A, aren't good enough, and B, need to leave the club. We can't just buy players to replace them and then not sell them, so we couldn't just... So let's say, for example, Marcel Brands and Carlo Ancelotti identified one of the centre-halves, either Keane or Yerry Mina, as not good enough to take us forward, and therefore they brought in another centre-half who they believed is good enough to take us forward. We couldn't then sort of just leave Michael Keane and Yerry Mina on the books and just say, right, well, you're not really going to play. A little bit like we've done with Nias, we can't really do that. We can't say, right, you're just going to sit on the bench, or you're going to sit at home, earning your wage, or you're going to play in the under-23s. Realistically, at that point, if we were to bring Gabriel in, and it was because the decision being made that one of the other 3 centre-halves, let's say, because it's only fair we put Holgate in there, even though it's not going to be Holgate, one of them it isn't good enough, then we have to move that player on. Whoever's deemed not good enough, we have to move on. Then we have to look to sell so we can bring in more income, so we can bring in more money, so we can continue on that, sort of path for transfers. Realistically, we can't just leave the deadwood players in the background, picking up a wage and collecting dust. Realistically, we need to move them on. In terms of the young centre-backs, I think it's up to them, and I think it's up to David Unsworth to make sure that Carlo Ancelotti knows that they're there, and knows that they're knocking on the door, and knows that they're playing well in the under-23s, the likes of Morgan Feeney, obviously Lewis Gibson in that argument. I think maybe loan spells again for those 2 players next season. We've seen how well the loan spell done for Mason Holgate, so I don't think that'll go amiss. Jess says, hey David, hope you're staying safe. Fernandez says, pay your YouTube money to your dad to let you record in there. I don't get much, mate, but I'll definitely do that. I've had a little word with my dad, and I think he's going to let me record a little bit more in there, even if it's just one video every now and then where I stick the camera down and I talk about the topic. I think we're definitely looking to do more in the office, because it's a fantastic space, and it's literally Everton everywhere, isn't it? So it'd be a shame to not utilise that. David says the Gabriel deal was almost done in January. There was a lot of rumours to state that. You're right. Ethan says thoughts on Pickford and should we replace him? I'm a little bit up and down with Jordan Pickford, and I'm up and down with Jordan Pickford constantly. I think one week he can have a game where he's absolutely fantastic and he's making brilliant saves left, right and centre. And I think the next week, he can have a shocker where he's made a couple of howlers. Again, I think much like, a lot of our squad, Jordan Pickford's issue really is his consistency. And Jordan Pickford's issue really is, again, nailing down and having a solid performances week in, week out, rather than just having one game where he's fantastic and the next game where he's not. Should we keep with him? I don't know. I think we need more competition for Jordan Pickford. I would definitely be bringing a goalkeeper in the summer, because I just don't think Jonas Lezo provides enough competition. Plus, he's gone out on loan and may probably leave the club in the summer. Martin Stecklenburg definitely doesn't provide enough competition, and João Virginia hasn't been given his opportunity, so we can't say he provides competition either. So I'd definitely be saying bringing another goalkeeper in the summer, even if it is a goalkeeper to just be the number 2 and give Jordan Pickford the kick up the arse, or if it's a goalkeeper to come in and potentially be the number 1 and have them fight for it to up Jordan Pickford's performances. Whether he should replace him or not, it all depends on realistically whether Jordan Pickford opens his mind to constructive criticism and opens his mind to wanting to improve. Because I think at times when he makes mistakes, sometimes he just sort of thinks, leave me alone, I'll get on with it, I'll deal with it myself, when really he needs to be told, no, I'm going to show you what you've done 10 times, and me and you, or me and this team of people are going to work, and you are going to work out how to stop those mistakes, because it's very clear that you can't do that on your own. David says, I have 4 kids, I've never stayed safe. He also says, Hernandez, 96 piece to Cam's dad. David also says, he's a good player, reads the game well, has pace to burn, though the Prem will be a test for him. There you go, on Gabriel, of course. Eugene said, do you think the Premier League season will start again this season or not? I don't know, mate, to be honest with you. I really don't know. I would like to hope so. I would like to hope so, because listen, I'm missing Everton. I think we're all missing Everton. I think we all want to see the Blues back at Goodison Park. We all want to see Dominic Calvert-Lewin banging in more goals. We all want to see Mason Holgate getting in players' faces and making some boss latches tackles. So, whether I think it will or not, I don't know. This is obviously, this crisis doesn't look like it's going to quiet down anytime soon, so I'm probably leaning against the thought of that. I don't think it'll return. Ollie says, yeah, Jack Grealish is great, would be great here. I love Jack Grealish, I'd absolutely love him in Everton. I really, really would. I think he'd be ideal for us. He cost a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but I definitely think he'd be ideal. Gord says, Mason and DCL have had a breakout season and deserve spots in the next England squad. They definitely do, 100%. David says, has to. The legality of it not finishing will cost a fortune because of the domino effect through the leagues. Also will have a big impact on transfer spend. That is a very, very good point. I suppose to go against, not go against it, but I suppose to argue against that point, you'd say that even in law and in the court and in terms of, the legality situation, obviously we're in the middle of a unprecedented pandemic, and we're in the middle of a situation that nobody could have ever believed would have happened. Nobody could have ever predicted. Nobody could have ever sort of planned for realistically at the start of the year, talking December, January time. So if they have to just say, listen, we're going to avoid it and we'll just forget about it and start again in the summer, then I think they've got a good enough reason to do so. But I definitely see your point. Eugene says, are you watching the Everton story time tonight at YouTube at 7 o'clock with Luca Dean? I hope so. I'm open to catch it. It looks, obviously, again, another part of the Blue Family campaign and another thing that Everton are doing, which is just absolutely fantastic. David says, is that to put the under-23s to bed? Which... Ethan says, Gabriel has recently signed a 3-year contract. There you go. Thanks for letting me know. Ethan says, thumbs up for the NHS staff last night. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. And David says, he has Ethan. That's because he doesn't want to be another Ross Barkley. There you go. Anyway, moving on to sort of the topic regarding, obviously, the NHS. And I'm sure you all know, I'm sure you all aware. I don't know if it's a worldwide thing or that's the NHS are in England. So I don't know why I said that. Obviously, 8 o'clock last night, the country was sort of urged to stand out your door, or to stand in your garden or out your window and clap for the NHS, and not just for NHS workers but also carers, people that work in social work, and anyone that is deemed as an essential worker who is doing their utmost to keep the country sort of moving during this sort of pandemic. And realistically, the people that are putting their lives at risk in order to save others, especially in the situation with the NHS. The NHS, the nurses, the doctors, the receptionists, everybody that works for the NHS, that are every single day for long hours a day putting their lives at risk in order to save other people. I took part in it. I'm sure a lot of people took part in it. Absolutely fantastic, really, really heartwarming to see, really, really heartwarming to see the videos all over social media, heartwarming to hear the fireworks outside as well, some people setting off fireworks, and it was a spell of 10 or 15 minutes where it just felt like everybody had come together, didn't it? And let's be perfectly honest with each other, let's be quite frank, honest with each other, it felt like the only point realistically in this sort of, at this time where everybody come together really to support the NHS and to support those essential workers, because there's been a lot of selfishness, I think, in the last couple of months. There's been a lot of people that haven't really adopted the stand together and fight it together, and there's been a lot of situations where we've seen certain people, obviously not to name anybody, but just generally, that, have sort of took the selfish approach, and I'm going to look after myself, and as long as I'm alright, it doesn't matter. Whereas last night, we really did see the country sort of coming together to show appreciation for those people that are helping others and that are putting their lives at risk to help others, which is absolutely fantastic to see as well. Yeah, so absolutely brilliant, really heartwarming and really emotional as well. Just says, did you go to your door? I didn't. I was on FaceTime to you, as you know, but I clapped on FaceTime and you went to your window, so I sort of did secondary. Paddy says, yeah, in Dublin last night we applauded the work of the NHS and our health staff, blues together around the world. Spot on. And Ziad says, can I be moderator? I've not gotten any money. I'm moderator at the moment. I just haven't done it yet. So maybe if I think about it, but not at the moment. Lastly, I want to talk about Oumar Niasse, the player that Everton can never seem to get rid of, the player that hopefully will leave the club in the summer. Oumar Niasse yesterday, like we said at the start of the last season, was caught in Manchester driving around. Apparently one of the articles said he had no seatbelt on, but he was caught driving around with 3 of his friends in the car, again with no seatbelt, which is a criminal offence for starters. Be in a situation where everybody, the country, has been urged to stay inside and stay at home unless absolutely necessary. And I'm really frustrated and really pissed off at this situation with Oumar Niasse, because Oumar Niasse is a footballer that, if the whole country is sort of being urged to stay at home and do as little travel as possible, and obviously for a lot of people that is feasible, people can do that, but for a lot of people that's not feasible. There's NHS staff, there's carers, there's people that work in banks, there's people that work in essential sort of shops and places, that supermarkets for example, that simply can't stay home because they've got to go to work and they've got to help others, and they're doing that very heroically. Oumar Niasse is of a group of players, not a group of players, of a group of people, a small group of people that have got the luxury to be able to stay at home and do the very least for humanity and this country in staying at home and not leaving your house unless absolutely necessary. A man that can afford to stay at home because he's being paid near to £100,000 a week, he has no excuse to not leave the house unless it's for absolute essentials. And yesterday he left the house for no other reason other than to socialise with his friends and to drive around with 3 of his friends, which is against the guidance anyway, because that's classed as a large gathering now, and B is just absolute stupidity and disrespectful. And at a time where we've seen Everton tweet out a video of various members of staff, Marcel Brands, players, Andre Gomes, Theo Walcott, Anthony Gordon, Denise Barrett-Baxendale, all a compilation video of them clapping for the NHS and staying at home and doing all they can to minimise the risk of this, pandemic spreading more than it already has. It's really distasteful to see, an Everton player in Oumar Niasse going out and completely ignoring the government guidance, which I think is A, stupid, and B, just again disrespectful. So hopefully that situation's dealt with in the best possible way by the club and by the management, and yeah, I dare say Oumar won't be a part of the squad going forward, certainly not after this summer. Just as it was a joke, he said, did you hear about the speeding in his car yesterday? I heard that he was driving with no seatbelt with multiple people. Whether he was speeding again, that's just another thing to add to the situation. And Paddy says, the funny thing about Oumar is that when you look at the training clips on YouTube, he's the main man up front banging in the goals. That's it, but everyone can look good training. And I don't particularly have there's a lot of Evertonians that have this sort of thing against Oumar Niasse, where it's very much like, oh my God, he's very disrespectful towards the club, blah blah blah, he's hanging on for a wage. Oumar Niasse, didn't really, he wasn't the one that made up how much he was going to get paid. He wasn't the one that made up his transfer fee. It was a ridiculous signing by a ridiculous manager in a ridiculous situation. And I actually think, there's been a couple of situations where I've questioned his morals, maybe. But I think for the large part, he got his head down, he worked hard, especially through the Koeman era when he was sort of shunned. He got his head down, he didn't moan, but you simply cannot, you cannot defend them in yesterday's situation. It was stupid. Abigail says, terminate his contract, he's gone against everything the government has asked us. He should have been led, fined and charged with breaching the guidance. Well, I'm sure he probably will receive a fine and will at least receive a telling off from the football club. And Uden says there is going to be an Everton watch along tomorrow afternoon on YouTube at 3. There is. I believe it's Everton versus Leicester, another one of the classical games that Everton are streaming, obviously in the absence of Premier League football. Definitely check that out if you've got the time during the day. Anyway, That's going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Once again, a big thank you for all of the support on Wednesday's video, the office tour. If you haven't seen it, when we finish this live stream, go over, check that out. It doesn't only really mean a lot to me, but also really means a lot to me dad. My dad's been checking constantly, you know, if there's any more comments and what people are saying and how people are reacting to it. So if you haven't seen that already, go and check it out. If you're a massive Everton fan, if you're Everton mad like I am, which I'm sure a lot of you are, definitely go and check that out. It's really something to see. There's a lot of Everton memorabilia, a lot of signed Everton shirts, a lot of signed Everton things. You know, there's an FA Cup final, 1966 FA Cup final, signed ball by the entire squad in there as well, and there's various signed shirts and bits of memorabilia, so go and check that one out. Big thanks for all the support on Monday's live stream as well. We will be live again on Monday. Don't forget to join us then. Over the weekend I'm going to try and get rid of a lot of the sort of files on my computer that are taking up a lot of space, and hopefully that will free up more space and potentially allow us to do the sort of FIFA videos and FIFA live streams without it sort of jumping around and being a little bit laggy. So I'll try and do that over the weekend, and potentially that could be on Monday. If not, it'll be a regular live stream where we're talking about news and maybe doing an Ask Me Anything as well. Big thanks to everybody for watching. Massive thanks to everybody for getting involved in the live comments. As per usual, if you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comments and we'll get through as many of them as possible as well. Don't forget to join us on Monday, 5:30 PM as usual, for another live stream. Eugene says, see you right up the toppies. Thank you very much, Eugene. And Jess puts a blue heart. If you've enjoyed, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well if you are new. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. The links are down below to keep up to date with all the latest Everton news and information. Big thanks for watching. Remember, follow the government guidelines, stay safe, stay at home unless you absolutely have to go out, and yeah, look after yourselves, look after your family, keep in touch with people, because obviously this is a time when we can't necessarily see people face to face, but we can't see people face to face unless they're in your own household. So keep in touch with people, whether it's through text, whether it's through FaceTime, whether it's through Skype, whatever. Keep in touch with your family, keep in touch with friends, try and keep a positive attitude, and obviously stay safe and follow the guidelines throughout this as well. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. I'll see you on Monday. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.